How's it going, everybody? Jordan here, and in today's video I'm gonna go over my ultimate hybrid build that is one of the most versatile builds in the entire game. It has amazing hunter damage, it can one-hit assassinate mercenaries on Nightmare and take on large groups of enemies in conquest battles with its hard-hitting melee attacks. On top of that, this build can be quite tanky as well, and can take a few hits on Nightmare and isn't entirely glass cannon. This is by far my favorite build in the entire game, and the build I've been using to play on New Game Plus on my live streams. Before we get into the details, remember, if you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate a like and subscribe for more Assassin's Creed Odyssey content. Alright, let's get into it. This build is an update and a variation to my Assassin build that I released a while back, and I felt like with all the changes I made to the build and how hard this build has been hitting, that I felt I needed to revisit and showcase this build as no longer an assassin build, but literally the best hybrid build in the entire game. Making a hybrid build is quite difficult in this game, especially after some of the nerfs that Ubisoft has put out. But what I'm going to do is go over each playstyle and explain what I did to boost my damage in each area. For assassin damage, this one is hard because there's not very many ways to increase your assassin damage. One of the main ways is to make sure that the primary perk on every one of your pieces of gear has assassin damage, which is what I did. If you don't do this, you won't be able to assassinate mercenaries or lower level enemies in a single shot very easily, especially on Nightmare. With assassin damage as the primary perk on all your gear, this begins the path of starting to limit your hunter and warrior damage, but we'll get into that in a moment. But as you can see in the footage, we do get a significant amount of hunter and warrior damage back, and I'll explain that in a minute. Another way that I increase the assassin damage is through crit chance and crit damage, considering that rush assassinations and regular assassinations can crit. Crit chance and crit damage is key to having overall increased damage across all three playstyles. Now, increasing the warrior damage, I focus on a few key points. The first is using daggers with high armor penetration. The swiftness and high attack speed of the daggers, when matched with the armor penetration, makes them hit as hard as heavier weapons, but faster than they do. Plus, the dagger doesn't slow you down and lets you maneuver and quickly take out enemies from anywhere on the battlefield. Also, the daggers have a combo move to knock back shield units, and typically you can kill them before they bring their shield back up. The second way to increase your warrior damage is making sure that you put damage with daggers on your weapons and your helmet. The third, which helps with both warrior and hunter, is having poison damage. I chose poison damage over fire because the damage with daggers perk conflicts with fire damage on the helmet. So by using poison, I can neatly fit all the perks I want to spread across all the pieces of gear without having to sacrifice perks to keep this build as tightly efficient as possible. In order to make this build the ultimate hybrid build, we need to take advantage of every perk in every single spot. Lastly, the final large boost to warrior damage is using the percentage chance to do 25% assassin damage perk. When matched with high assassin damage across your gear, like I was previously talking about, and the poison damage and the crits, you will one-hit mercenaries with a single dagger hit every so often. When matched with the legendary engraving of 2% chance to do 25% assassin damage and the 4% chance that you can get from increasing on your masteries, you will be destroying people with these daggers and make up for a lot of warrior damage. I was getting around like 1.7 million damage hits 6% of the time. It's insane. Alright, so increasing the hunter damage comes with a few points as well. The high crit chance and damage while at full health and the poison damage is the primary damage dealer with Hunter. But the thing that's different is you also want to have the multi-shot ability. When mixed with the arrows, pierce shields engraving on your boots, allows you to mop up large units of enemies as a Hunter very easily. Overall, rounding out this entire build, giving you high assassin damage, very high warrior damage, and a hunter damage where you can one hit or two hit in the head most enemies. When you efficiently tweak this build, it becomes the best utility build in the game and allows you to play whichever playstyle is needed in the situation you find yourself in. I can use my assassinations to clear out a fort without being noticed. My warrior damage lets me take on large conquest battles, and my hunter ability lets me keep stronger or higher level enemies at a distance and deal damage from afar. In fact, this build is so strong that I used it to kill the level 99 King of the Arena at level 72 on the Nightmare difficulty. It took a very long time and was extremely challenging, but I did it with this build, and that's without using any assassin abilities. And that brings up an interesting fact. If you're looking for a challenge and are not level 99 yet, I suggest you try out the arena and fight these arena bosses while they're higher level than you. It's very challenging and really fun and brought a lot more excitement back to the game for me. Alright, let's get into the specific gear. So my primary weapon is going to be the Arachne Stingers. Now you can get the Arachne Stingers by killing a mercenary in the game. This mercenary is randomly generated per person, but the primary engraving like we're talking about is assassin damage. We have the poison damage here, and then instead of using the poison ability, because I wanted to use other abilities, is I keep poison constantly active on my dagger so I can always have that boosted damage whenever I need it. And then the 30% armor penetration perk, which you get from the Atlantean Blade, which is a reward for a quest that you get from the region in Elise. This, like I've mentioned in the past, when matched with the high attack speed of the daggers, makes these daggers hit extremely hard like axes or heavy blunts, but they attack much quicker, which I think kind of makes daggers and swords and the higher attack speed weapons, when matched with this engraving, extremely strong, if not stronger than the heavier weapons. For the second weapon, we have the Daggers of Cronus. Now you get the Daggers of Cronus for killing one of the main cultists in the main storyline. You can easily Google this to look up who specifically you need to kill to get this dagger. Now here's where we get warrior damage and damage with daggers to increase our damage overall as a warrior. And then we get the 40% damage when attacking from behind, which when mixed with the slow time ability, what you can do is use the quickness of the fact that you have daggers and the slow time to position yourself behind an enemy and quickly hit them, and you get that 40% damage boost while you're hitting them from behind. It's a great combo to use. That's why I use this particular weapon. Plus, assassinations get the 40% damage from behind as well, giving you that big damage boost. And then I engrave it with the 2% chance to deal 25% assassin damage on melee hit. You can get this from the Dionysus Tears weapon, which is from the Helix store or the Oikos of the Olympian store. For my bow, I use the Fanged bow. Now, here's where we get, again, assassin damage, more poison damage, and all of our arrows as a hunter are poison arrows, giving us that increased crit damage, plus the armor penetration from the primary perk makes our basic arrows hit as hard, if not harder, than death arrow. And then with the new update, I went ahead to the Hephaestus store and gave myself an increased crit chance that I engrave on this bow so that we can have a higher crit chance. For the head, here's where you're going to start seeing we have assassin damage. This is where we put damage with daggers and then crit chance while at full health. And then to keep this build tanky, I gave this an engraving of chance to ignore half damage. On the gauntlets, we have assassin damage, crit chance, crit damage, and then 100% crit damage while at full health. For the chest, we have assassin damage, crit damage, and poison damage. And then I engrave this with the 2% damage restored as health from the Achilles or Amazonian set. And the reason for that is, again, I want to make my health back if I'm in a melee fight so I can stay at full health in order for me to keep dealing high crits and high crit damage while at full health. On the waist, we have assassin damage, crit damage while at full health, crit chance, and then again, chance to ignore half damage here. On the boots, this is where we put assassin damage, 80% crit damage while at full health, 16% 10% crit chance while at full health, and then I engrave it with the all arrows pierce shields, which comes from the Athenian war hero set on one of the cultist branches. Alright, let's look at the masteries here. Now what I would focus on first is these 5 main abilities here. Damage with daggers, crit chance while at full health, crit damage while at full health, damage while at full health, and chance to ignore half damage. These primary 4 are your increase damage focus. This gets your tankiness going. And then if you have extra points, putting them in assassin damage here, or poison damage, and then I put a couple points into adrenaline on per crit and adrenaline on assassination kill. And then lastly, you're gonna want to put a bunch of points into chance to deal 25% assassin damage on melee hit. Alright, on the warrior side, we're gonna want to focus on damage dealt restored as health. And if you have extra points, putting things into like melee resistance or range resistance might be a good idea, or even crit damage to overall increase that. Alright, so if we look at my stats overall at level around level 71 right now, you can also check out the build details for this particular build in the description of this video or in the card probably popping up right now, so you can always access it so you don't have to look at this video. But one of the primary things that we're looking at here is we have a 92% chance to ignore half damage, which makes basically between a couple mastery points and 2 perks, we can make sure that we have a 50% damage reduction on this build to keep us in the fight longer. The other main thing is we have an 81% critical hit chance while at full health, so you're going to want to stay at full health, and then the additional almost 500% damage when you do crit, which is very impactful to all assassin, warrior, and hunter abilities that you use. Alright, let's go over the abilities that I use with this particular build. Now, the primary ability on the assassin tree that I focus on is Rush Assassination. It allows you to engage into a fight early and also take out in one hit most of the time 4 different units in a particular fort or situation. The secondary perk that I focus on is Ring of Chaos. This is a great crowd control ability for a hybrid build. You can use it to blast people back or knock them off ledges, or if you're in a conquest battle, to clear the field and allow you to target the person that you want to take out yourself. The third ability that I focus on, which is in the assassin tree, is Slow Time. This lets you do a lot of different things, including taking advantage of the daggers of Cronus 40% damage from behind in melee battles, because you can run behind the enemy you're trying to focus on and quickly, with the quick attack speed of the daggers, chop them up with that increased 40% damage increase. And then the fourth ability that I use is Second Wind, the health. Again, we need to stay at full health for the high crit chance and crit damage, so having the health ability when you get hit to put you back at full health is very necessary. On the hunter side of things, I put points into archery mastery and Sixth Sense for the slow time when you get noticed, but the primary hunter ability with this build is multi-shot. When mixed with the high crit, the poison, and the arrows pierce shields, you can take out tons of enemies very quickly with this particular ability. Alright, lastly, I'm going to go over the Transmog. So many people ask me, how do I make my guy look like this? I kind of addressed it in the last video, but I'll do it again briefly here. For the head, we're using this shroud, which is this version of this shroud, but with the covered face version, obviously. On the wrists, we're using this version of the Agamemnon's gauntlets, which is like gold and black. They have white versions and I think like a red version somewhere, yeah, over here. So you could kind of do a different variation off of this, but I choose the black and gold version. On the chest, I do hidden torso because the tunic is black. Especially since I switched to Alexios, I could switch to a different chest, but I think that looked better, the hidden torso on Cassandra, but on Alexios you might be able to get away with a chest piece like this and it might still be pretty cool. And then on the waist, I'm using the Father of Time, which I think is a epic Helix store item, or that I rolled from the Oikos store. You could, if you don't have that, settle with like a belt of Ares or any other belt that's kind of black and gold to kind of fit the particular theme. And then on the legs, we're doing the gauntlet variation, but on the boots, which is the Boots of Agamemnon, which also have the white and red versions as well, so you can match the legs to the arms with that as well. So this is the ultimate hybrid build in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I would even suffice to say that it's one of the best, if not the best build, due to the amount of damage it deals across all three playstyles and how much tankiness it has. It's a ton of fun to play and is literally my favorite build and the one I primarily use day to day to play the game. Let me know in the comments if you use this build or what other things you use or tweak about this build to fit your playstyle, or if you've taken on any level 99 mercenaries at a lower level, like what was your experience so far with New Game Plus. Again, if you enjoyed this video, please remember to leave a like and subscribe and hit the bell for more Assassin's Creed Odyssey content. As always, I appreciate all of you and your support means a lot to me, and I'll see you guys next time.
So proud.